stage, the better he is. Bombers are going to triumph, and what a triumph it is! The sweet sound of the sea.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Don Pod. I'm Sam, I'm here with Nathan, and we're here to review a pretty a better Anzac Day, but probably not still one we were after. Hello Nathan, how are you?
I'm good, thanks, Sam. How are you, buddy? How are your emotions?
I'm torn, to be honest with you. A much better effort compared to last week. We actually won the third quarter, which is nice, but obviously not the results that we wanted. How are you? How are you feeling?
Agree in that we played better football, but so at least it wasn't effort this time. It was actually ability that let us down.
Yeah, minor football.
Somehow, I think that's better. I think
it is better, and for reasons we'll get into throughout the podcast. A few little things. One is we're trying some new things with audio, so we've had a bit of feedback about how we sound. So let us know if this is any better, any worse, how you feel about that. Second thing is if you're watching us on Facebook Live or on YouTube, hello, lovely new backgrounds. Yes, they are awful. But we had great fun putting them together. So there's that.
It's amazing how you can fill an afternoon in. So.
Oh, yes, when you're meant to be working. That is it, yeah. But we love the feedback. So thanks to those that have got in touch and said, hey, the audio is a bit hard to hear. Hopefully we fixed it. So, yeah, let us know. All right, we'll crack in. So obviously Collingwood won. That's no surprise to anyone. For us, Darcy Parish, 44 disposals. His equal PB, also equal club record, because Darcy holds that record. 30 touches at halftime is the most since 2000, which is pretty impressive. 12 clearances, 7 of which from the middle, 75% efficiency, and 7 score involvements. A very good game from Darcy. Merritt 36, McGrath 31, Shield 26, and Rusty Martin, because I always have to include him, 22. The goals for us, Waterman 4, Stringer 3, Guelphy Perkins 2, and Wright 1. For Collingwood, the criminal DeGoey 27, Pendlebury 25, throwing it back to 2017 Pendlebury, giving me nightmares in particular. Crisp 24 and Nick Dacos and Noble with 23 each. Goals, I think I know how to pronounce his name. Ginnivan or Ginnivan, I'm not really sure. I'm going to go with Ginnivan. If it's wrong, I apologise. 5, Myercheck 4, and then singles to Taylor Adams, Cameron, Crisp, Grundy, McGuinness, and Heiner with 1 each, as I said. I think we talk about Ginnivan just quickly. Obviously a hot topic. Following in the footsteps of, who was it? Mark McGough was the last to win the Anzac medal, so I'm sure it
was a wet day that day
for Ginnivan. I was quite close to where he shushed. It was a couple of bays around from me, and I saw it, and my first reaction was, you want to make sure you win, kid. You don't shush a crowd in the second quarter. You bloody go win. And yeah, fair dues. He kicked 5 goals and they won, and he was best on ground. So a little bit of humble pie.
It hurts extra, doesn't it? I knew as soon as I saw he was in, I thought he's the sort of guy that's going to kick 5 against, or 4 or 5 against us. I just felt like he's like the Cody Waitman of Collingwood. You know, he's got so much of a head throwback. And
I will say that at least Cody Waitman did it in a final when it mattered. Yeah. But like I said, it's one thing to be an arrogant little shit, which he was, but you got to back it up. And he did. He kicked 5, and it was the reason they won the game and won the medal. I saw a bit of media around his speech. I watched it today. I didn't think it was awful. He didn't know what to say. That's okay for a kid.
Yep.
So I don't really see the issues there, but fair enough. Just next time we play him, next time we play them, I just hope he gets a bit more attention. I would have liked to have seen our players get into him a bit after shushing our supporters, but
and we do play him again too later in the year.
Yeah. So
we'll see how we go.
All's fair in love and war. You know, he backed it up, and I respect that. So. Right. We'll move into some goods and some bads. Not Adam goods, just some positives. We'll start with a pretty obvious one in Mr. Parrish.
Do you think he took the criticism from last week well?
I think he took it personally, to be honest. I think as much of a reaction as you can get from that, to have 30 disposals
and 16 in the first quarter.
Yeah.
Like that first quarter, he just seemed to be everywhere and involved in everything. And I think his attitude was, I don't have to tackle if I've always got the ball.
If I have the football, you don't have to tackle. Yeah. That's reasonable.
I don't have to chase anyone because if I've got the ball, I don't have to chase. And I think it's a good theory. I think it could work. I did hear some good news too tonight that it's not a syndesmosis.
That is good news. That is excellent.
Yep. And they're hoping that he might play the doggies this week.
As long as he's 100%.
Yeah, that's right.
We are 1-5,
Although
so no point in risking
still
our best player right now. No point in risking that. So yeah, obviously Parrish pretty clear best on for us, and it wasn't like he's getting a bit of stick. And I say a bit of stick; it's a very small amount online, just through Facebook comments and that sort of stuff. 31 handballs, but he was winning the ball every single centre bounce just about in the first half, and meaning like they were handballs that were effective to a teammate who then had space to kick the ball. I get the whole handball. That's a lot of handballs, but they weren't just nothing handballs. No. They were generally.
He's not running around sheepdogging. He wasn't sneaking around the back. A lot of the handballs were to guys like Merritt, who then was kicking it to good options. And I think we all know Parrish is not great by foot. It's not one of his strengths. And I think that, he's definitely improved. But I think that he realizes that. And if he's got an opportunity and he sees a player like Merritt sitting out with a bit of space, he's going to give it to him because he knows, one, he makes good decisions, and two, he'll hit the target.
Yeah. And in a centre bounce situation in particular, most of your possessions, well, not most of them, but a lot of them are going to be handballs because you're looking for the space to get the kick. Yeah. Sometimes you won't. Sometimes you'll just get the hack kick. But every team does that.
Trying to get, you can see Essendon's game plan is to try and get that, and we can talk about this more in detail, is to try and get that chain of handballs to get guys free and running forward. That's part of the game plan that they're doing now.
And we are, did you say,
sometimes backfires?
Before we hit go, did you say we were third in the AFL for hitouts?
Yes, correct.
So, we're winning the ball from the ruck more often than not. And then in this particular game, you've got Parrish winning it and getting hands away to a bloke that can kick a football. And honestly, if he's getting the ball, handballing it to Merritt's our best kick out of the guts. Yep. So no dramas there whatsoever. Just on the middle, on the centre of the ground, I thought one of, if not the best game Draper has played for the football club. You've been critical on him. Do you have any thoughts?
I see what you're doing there, Sam. Look, I thought I would. I don't know if it's his best, but I certainly think it's his best this year. He went up against the top 2 or 3 ruckmen in the competition for the last 5-6 years in Grundy, and I think held his own. Probably just, I think the problem, and I don't want to be too negative, but where Grundy got off the lead a bit was he was involved in, kicked 1 goal himself and set up 2 other scoring opportunities. So whereas Draper didn't do that, and that's, Draper's young. He's got to work on that stuff. That's probably the negative always on him, is kicking that beautiful bit of play where he pushes a player off. Have you seen the footage of the ball drop? Nearly spins around.
It was about 20 meters in front of me. Everyone just about stood up when he burst through 2 of them, just willing the ball to go through the big sticks, because it would have been absolute scenes. But it rotated pretty much a full time between his hand and his feet.
Yeah,
but nothing new to us. He's
No,
Baldwin.
nothing new to us. But look,
And-
it definitely was his best game. I was a little disappointed, though, that we didn't play Brian because I
Yes.
still think that in the last quarter, I thought that's when Draper looked a little more tired and would have been helpful. And I also I still have the issue that when Draper's not rucking, it's Wright, or in this game, it was a bit
started
of
being Baldwin.
Baldwin, Baldwin was up against Grundy a couple of times. I was like, oh my God, this is bad. And that was in that period in the first and second quarter where Collingwood looked like they were just going to get away from us.
Yeah, that blew my mind. I didn't notice it, I think, until later in the first quarter, maybe even second quarter. There was a stoppage in our back half, so our defensive 50. And that was Baldwin. What? If he's rucking in the forward 50, okay, that might work. But he's clearly, it's a plan to have him around the ground. Right? Sorry, he's like 191.
Yeah.
And he's coming up against not only a 200 centimeter ruckman, but a 200 centimeter ruckman that happens to be one of the best two for the last 5, 6, 7 years.
Yep.
Bit rough. I'm with you. I would have rather seen Brian over Baldwin, but that's 2020 hindsight. So
yeah, hindsight's always a wonderful thing. What I found was interesting, I guess about that was that we'd obviously gone in 2 weeks ago. Was it 2 or 3 weeks ago when we went with the the Phillips and Draper sort of combo? Maybe 3 weeks ago we started doing that. And the first week it wasn't very good. The second week I think we liked it a bit more, and the third week is when Phillips got injured, I think. So it was interesting that they dropped that then this week. Like if it's not Phillips, Bryant can't do it.
The key bits were, or the key thing for me was that every time we played Phillips, excluding the Fremantle game because he got injured so early, Wright kicked 3 or 4 every time. And it may have only been 2, so that's a bit silly saying every time. But it changed Wright's game. Wright didn't have a good game against Fremantle, and as you pointed out, he's a bit of a confidence player, so that flowed into this week. We'll get to Wright in a little bit. I don't want to get too much into that just yet. Some other positives, and then stop me if you want to say a little bit more about them. Perkins, I thought he was in and out of the game a little bit, but 16 touches, 81% and 2 goals. Had 2 set shots and kicked them both. I have a lot of time for guys that take their chances. So I thought
I'd still like to see him in the CBA, in the centre bounces a little bit more. He only did 1, I think, for the game. I'd like to see that. I think he's got that shake and bake sort of ability.
He's got a bit of an evasiveness about him. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think that, a bit like Stringer, who probably uses his strength to do it, but Perkins can sort of step around some guys and create space.
Yeah. Redmond, we have actually, both of us have been a bit critical on him, especially the preseason. 21 touches at 95%. That's a very good game of football. I remember one moment, which was probably the first time I noticed him all day, which again, for a defender, I like it.
Past.
He good closing speed on an aerial ball and crunched it over the boundary line.
Yep.
Just simple shit. It was a defensive act. Love it.
There's another bit where he came streaming out of the back line and got a handball receive and powered away past a couple of Collingwood players too. So, look, that's good. But the concern for me still is that when the ball is turned over, the same defenders are left one-on-one. And
it was always BZT and Kelly.
Yeah, and I don't get that because they're not winning those one-on-ones. Like Myercheck kicked 4, and I reckon 2 or 3 of them came from just one-on-ones with the Laverde, and he just wasn't up to it.
Yep. Sammy Durham, probably one of my favourite players on the day. 17 touches, 4 tackles at 94% efficiency with his disposals and 5 intercept possessions. We're going to touch on Guelphy a bit later, but he has that same sort of enthusiasm. Yep. He's there, he's chasing, he's harassing, he's doing something, but he's also got 4 tackles, which is an equal game high for Essendon, not a match high, but for the club. And he's had 17 touches, 94% of them have hit the target. That's beautiful. Love it.
That's what we're talking about, and that's what surprises us about guys like Nick Martin is that he had 22 touches and 20 of them were effective. So, and I guess we're surprised by that because of some of our players. I think we get a bit hard on, and Happel might be one we can think of, who they, turn the ball over when it hurts us, by bad kicking and bad handle. I can understand that when pressure comes, you can make mistakes, but when you're watching a guy who's kicking it to a target and misses the target by a bit and the ball gets turned over, you get a bit frustrated because in today's modern football, on dry grounds, we're not playing in the wet and the mud, the skills have to be elite. Like, you can't spill the ball. The good teams don't second grab, don't,
That's the
around.
thing. And okay, I'll save that for the negatives because this is the positives. I did have Nick Martin on there, 22 touches at 82%, 7 marks to go with that, which is pretty handy. I love him. I say it every week. I love the guy. And probably the next or the most important one I want to mention is McGrath. 31 touches, 9 marks, 4 clearances, mostly off half back. I think you looked at his heat tracker. It was 80% defensive half. But he was clean. He didn't hack kick. He had one quick kick, but it was a good kick. Definitely his best game for the year. Absolutely his best game for the year.
He played on DeGoey a lot. I think Hobbs went on to him somewhere around the last quarter too for a little bit. But he kept him, he didn't kick a goal. He still had 27 touches, but...
I'll take that without a goal.
Yeah, I don't think DeGoey destroyed us or anything. It wasn't DeGoey that hurt us. It was guys that we should have been able to contain, really.
Yeah. But it was good to see. I didn't actually get his disposal efficiency, so maybe that says it wasn't fantastic. But he looked confident. He looked good with the ball. He was clean, which is a great segue into some, I don't want to say negatives or bad, just some things that need improving, shall we say.
I'll just have a quick question on that before we jump to the next one.
83% effective for McGrath.
Yeah, that's good. What do you think then of Hind being out and McGrath playing that half back?
Hind's a weird one. At the game, I thought he was horrible. He had 14 touches in a quarter of football.
A couple of them were turnovers, and it was
which is probably why I thought he was awful, because he had that much of it, and he gave
that 50 that I felt killed us too. Like when we had, I wouldn't say momentum, but we still had a chance.
We were in it. We were in the game still, and that was. It's been a rule for how long now? This is the 3rd season, I think. Yeah,
and it was a ruckman that sucked him in too. Like it was Grundy that sucked him into the fake Jeff.
There's just a small part of me that can accept it in the sense that game's on the line. He's doing everything he possibly can in his own mind to defend, and it was going to be an easy kick to a Collingwood player if he went through with that kick. But 3rd season, it's just footy IQ, and I constantly mention how much of a low IQ side we actually can be. So
very low.
It was a bit like that. I don't like our number 1 draft pick being on halfback, but if he has that sort of game every week, then no dramas from me. Particularly when Heppel's not doing much. If he wasn't our captain, I would be seriously thinking he's in a realm where he might get dropped. Kind of bad.
I thought he was okay on the weekend, but I think the problem is that from what I saw, and you might be able to confirm more of this, is that it looked like he was playing on Ginnivan, whatever, a lot. And if he was, and then kicking, this is my problem with defenders, is that you get 21 touches or whatever, that's all well and good. But if the guy you're playing on has kicked 5 goals, that's a loss.
It's all for nothing.
Yeah, you can be like Parrish, you get 44 touches, but if the guy you're on kicks 5 goals, you're sort of pointless.
Yeah. Anyway, I think McGrath in that role over Hind, especially given Hind's output, I'm all for it. Well, probably some structural things is a bit more in depth. So I want to mention tackles again. So we had 18.
So we're a blue collar team.
Yeah, blue collar team had 18 players with 2 tackles or less. Nick Hind is also in that category, but I felt it rough to include him given he only played a quarter. I think he had 2, so maybe he would have had 8 if the averages go on.
Yeah, with that maths. I do that all the time in fantasy football.
Yes. He got 100. Well, if that logic applied, Parrish would have had 60 touches.
That's right.
18 plays with 2 or less. I get not everyone's going to have 5 tackles, but you need at least 10 players with sort of 3 or more, 4 or more.
Yeah. Well, we lost the tackle count by 12, which is when we were behind in 75% of the game. I mean,
we
we
didn't
won
get
the
in front till
clearances.
the third quarter, did we?
Yeah, you could argue that because we were winning the clearances, we weren't tackling as much. But I still think
you still got to.
It's a concern that we are one of the bottom teams in tackles. Like for this, what they tell us is a blue collar team, workman-like blue collar.
Can't get too harsh. It was better. It was a better performance, but
definitely. But we can't accept. We still lost, Sam. Like we can't accept that. We don't accept losses.
No, I read a good comment today on our Facebook page, and I apologise, I forget who it was that said it. It was Chris Scott. Said we don't.
Chris Scott posted it on our Facebook page.
It was don't mess with my head. It's not good.
Wow, we are really taking off, Sam.
An individual commented a comment saying Chris Scott said, "We don't coach effort. Effort is a basic expectation, and it's not coached because." You rock up on a game day, you expect 22 players, maybe 23 players to give you effort.
Yep.
It's not coached.
Great point. And it's funny, that's the thing that's been talked about most in our first 5 weeks. Effort, the effort's not there. We've got to, find a way to get that. And that, as you're saying, it shouldn't be something we're looking for. That should be expected.
Yes, absolutely. Which is a great segue into Guelphy. Now, me and you, probably for the first time in maybe about 12 months doing this little podcast, little project of ours, disagree.
Yep.
So I like what he brings to the table. I think when he's playing good football, obviously when he's playing good football, that's a dumb statement. I don't even know what I'm trying to say. I think he's in our best 22.
Take your time, buddy.
I think he is worth being in that side because of the things like the smothering. Yesterday, he kicked 2 goals, one from a holding the ball tackle that I've never holding the ball, but anyway. Smothers, 23 pressure acts yesterday, only 2 tackles. He was in that mob. I guess the knock for me is 12 disposals at 67%, but 2 goals, harasses. I like it. Now you talk.
Well, my problem with him is that he's played nearly 70 sort of odd games. He's been at the club 4 or 5 years. I saw him on the wing a bit, which I really am concerned for the club if that's our option for a wingman. Look, he could make a handy small forward, but I don't think he hasn't got enough attributes that I think make it. I personally put him in that sort of 22 to 25 to 27 sort of best player. He's a backup of other players if somebody else goes out. But he's good depth. He's a great depth player, but not, as I said, I like him and I really respect the commitment and all those 1%ers. But as I've said to you, they all should do that. We shouldn't be just seeing Guelphy and sometimes Sam Durham doing that and going, hey, look, they're really good because they occasionally smother or they occasionally tackle. We should be like, well, they're all doing that. Let's pick apart the guys that are probably letting us down because they're not good enough in the run. I guess the point is wingmen in current football are really quality. But you look at like Langdon at Melbourne. I know that's probably the top echelon at the moment.
Well, that's what you compare yourself to. That's fine.
Yeah, that's right. He runs his guts out for one, gets up and down the ground, does defensive things. I don't see Guelphy up the other end doing a lot of stuff defensively. Like he's not crashing back or he's not, helping out a defender. You will often see Langdon being on a one-on-one with a forward because he's the only one that's got back there and covered the defense. Whereas Guelphy doesn't do that. Guelphy gets forward a bit more and tries to kick goals, which he's not great at that. I don't know. As I said, if he's a wingman in our team, then I don't think that's a team that can win a flag, personally. That's my view.
Fair enough. In the comments, please let us know what you think of Guelph. Like I said, it's not very often myself and Nathan have a disagreement. We are pretty much aligned in what we think of the club. But
I don't know if that's a good thing or not.
I think a bit of disagreement is good sometimes for content, but it makes you a lot easier to talk to. Just to back up your point, 66% offensive half for Guelphy, 34% defensive, and it was sort of wing half back. He didn't actually have a possession in the defensive 50.
Yeah. So if he's playing on a wing, like as I said, and maybe because the problem I have too is that going to Cox, I guess, would be a pretty good segue onto Cox because so if he's our other winger at the moment, and I think it's a mix between there's probably Durham might get on there as well. But with Cox, like I like him, but he's not quick enough to be a winger. He's got the tank, obviously, to run up and down the ground, but he's not quick enough. Like the number of times we saw Steele run away from him, and Steele's like 37. Like
I like how you're on first name basis with opposition players.
Steele. Well, I always Steele.
Jack Steele. Cool did we play St Kilda?
Steele far bottom, man.
Yeah, I know.
And and what I think frustrates me a bit about Cox is that okay, so. If I'm playing on someone and I'm like him, I can't beat him on pace. But what I've got to try and do is get up forward and try and take a mark and use my height, or get down back and help the defenders. And because I'm tall, I can come in and cause some punching. So you might not. I guess it's again goes back to that smartness of our players is that they don't say, oh, well, where can I beat this guy? Because he can beat me with pace, so I've got to hurt him somewhere else. I've got to kick a couple of goals, get forward, try and get a one-on-one with him and steal side on him. He should be able to just stick his arm up and mark the ball and still couldn't do anything about it realistically. But
you're right. And that comes down to the delivery he gets from his teammates.
Of course, there's so many other factors in it, but
he had one really good moment in the first quarter where I can't remember exactly what happened. He tackled side bottom Steele, won the footy back, and we ended up with a shot at goal on it, which was ultimately missed. But he really got love from the crowd. Well, it wasn't your goal because it wasn't a goal, but all you, Coxie, all you. And I thought at that point, it was definitely first quarter. I thought at that point, maybe he's just in for a big game because a bit of love, we're only humans. Getting that sort of feedback from the crowd, sort of, especially as a kid. But yeah, 5 touches in the first quarter, then 0, 3, and 2, and he only went at 70%. So
yeah, it's just
I don't know. I don't know if we just need to chuck him back in the VFL and say, look, we're going to play on the wing here and just see how you go against some lesser quality opposition, or chuck him in the forward line and do the same thing, or just work out what you want from him first, and then have him back in the AFL side with a clear direction on what his role actually is.
I would love, and I don't understand how it hasn't happened. I would love to give him a shot at half forward or at centre half forward or something like that. Like, I don't understand why especially, I mean, we're not playing finals. We're 1 and 5.
Oh God, no.
So why not say with him, like guys like him, and there's a few other VFL guys, let's get them in, see how they can play and what effect they can have on the team. It's going to be a season towards the end where we're going to be looking at young kids and going, well, how good are you?
Well, actually, we'll get to that in a minute because we'll talk a little bit about the Dogs game coming up. The last one there I had, or one of the last two I had there, was Laverde, 54% game time. He hurt himself very early on, and I'm worried he might miss football. I don't know how long. I haven't seen anything about it.
It looks like a corky, but it could be something more serious, obviously. I don't know if they took him out to try and get some pace in the game because we didn't really need that many tools because they'd had that.
They lost a tool.
They were short a tool. Kruger went off with his shoulder injury. So maybe that was a bit more of a coaching strategic sort of move, which I'd struggle to believe because I don't think we make many of them during games. I said it.
Harry hindsight again, like everyone's got 2020 hindsight. I would have preferred Hine to come on as a forward. Again, because Collingwood had already lost the tool. By Lav going off, we weren't really losing. You were losing a matchup.
Yep.
So if they don't have the tool, we don't have the tool. Like it kind of worked. Hind as a forward would have been at least a little bit of, quick up the forward line. I don't know what the term is.
Would have been hard to give away that 50.
Hard to do that. And he's got a decent goal sense. I can remember him once or twice just getting the ball, chucking it on the boot, quick snap for a goal. He's got that in him.
We played
So-
forward for St Kilda. When they drafted him, they made him into a forward. That obviously didn't work out because they got rid of him. Is that a theory on that? Well, then would be you'd have to send someone back, and could Baldwin go back, or would it have been then better to have someone like a Francis in the team because
Well,
he can?
Where are Collingwood going to
rotate
get the
both.
height from? If they've lost Kruger and they're going to put height down there, what's the height? Grundy. Well, then they haven't got a ruckman.
Well, I guess Cameron Darcy, is it?
Well, Cameron was already down there.
Yeah, and Myercheck's reasonably tall. Like he's not.
We had matchups for that again. It wasn't like Hines
Yeah,
coming on to match up against those
Fair.
guys. Don't know.
I guess we're a team that believes that our attack comes from defence.
Yeah, I know,
That's
but-
what it seems to be.
in a game where we were behind most of it, it was there to be won.
Yep.
For me, the move would have been to put Hind in the forward line, if anywhere, just a bit of spark, because we're not going to win the game by not kicking. Sorry, we're not going to win the game by them not kicking goals. We had to kick goals because we were behind.
That's exactly right. Yeah,
So-
that's right. I still after that game, I'm still worried about our fitness because I felt like it. Like in that third quarter, I was
I
worried
thought we
how
were
we
going
were
to run
going
over
to
the
go.
top of them, to be honest.
Yeah, the third quarter we played a good quarter. Like everything got right, and I thought, gee, we're actually a shot here. And then I don't know what the scores would have been in the last quarter, but we didn't look like really we had it at all. Like the 11
they
points
really
probably
smashed us.
flatters. The 11 points probably flatters the score, really.
At times in the third quarter, we did not we barely gave up a centre clearance. Every time the ball went back to the middle, we won the damn football, and it was unreal. But then fourth quarter, we couldn't get a centre clearance to save ourselves.
Yep.
Last quarter was 6 goals straight to 4 goals to. We should mention 15-3 Collingwood. Next week they'll kick 3.
Would have been nice. Would have been nice if they kicked a few more points. Gave us a shot. But if you look at all the stats too, like from the game, we won the clearances, we won the hitouts, we won the
ball for once.
Contested ball, we won a lot of the important stats, but we weren't good enough at finishing. In the end, we got it inside 50 more. I think we even were more. We just couldn't turn those shots on goal, and the whole what was it 12 goals? What did we kick? 10 goals, 12 goals, 10. Just wasn't good enough to 15. So 22 scoring shots to 18.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
that was the problem. We just couldn't kick straight.
I don't know how
put
many
them away in that third quarter.
I haven't got a number, but it felt like a lot of their goals came from outside 50 or outside 40.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
think
good
that-
kicking.
Yep.
You pay that. But again, they could go out next week and kick 315 and it wouldn't surprise me. We just got a little bit unlucky on that front.
Well, we often say good kicking is good football. And it's a part of our issues is skills, and skills by foot, as we've talked about, is our weakness. And I think the set shots shows up as something where we've been a bit like that all year, been pretty poor with our kicking. What?
That was a bit of a tongue twister. You got through that very well.
Yeah.
Set shot. 10 out of 10.
I felt that was the disappointment in the game to me, is that I thought we were the better team in a lot of ways, but when it came down to it, they played the better football when it was required.
They did play better football, and it came from back half again. They had Quaynor and Crisp kick goals where they ran it from D50 to forward 50 with very little pressure. Fairly sure Myercheck kicked one where he got belted after he kicked it. Same thing, it came from D50. So nothing really new in some areas, but hey, at least we tried. Can I please have your votes, kind sir?
Yes, you may, kind sir. I gave Parrish a 3, unlike Job. I don't know what he was. Maybe he felt like, because he's such a nice guy, they thought, I can't give it to the Essendon guy because, that'll look too...
Everyone will think I'm biased.
Yeah, that's right. So he just went the opposite way and didn't even give him a vote.
Didn't give any, yeah, probably.
And then I gave, I thought McGrath was, it pains me. McGrath has to play off the halfback line. Number 1 draft pick playing as a halfback flanker. Look, it happens. Rich was he nearly a number 1 pick up at Brisbane?
Sure.
Let's not fact check it. Let's just say it. Yeah,
Not
it was
gonna
number 1
fact
pick. He's
check it,
played up at Brisbane. He's been playing on that back line. But he's got a beautiful foot on
Well,
him.
Williams from Carlton, they wanted him to be a mid, and he's not.
Yep. And then I can't help but give a vote to Rusty because of just I can't help but watch him and watch. There was a couple of moments when he was coming into the 50 and he was looking for options. Like he had the ball. He's like, come on, someone move for me and I'll kick it to you. And he always puts it right out in front of the forwards and marks it. And look, to me, he could be the winger that I think we need personally because he's got tank, he's got speed, and he's got great vision in the game.
Yep. Daniel Rich was pick 7, so close enough.
Yeah, well, that's close enough. It was a good year that year.
Yeah, sure. No one fact checked that.
No one.
I mean, I gave 3 to Dryer Parish. Obviously, that's not going to be a shock to anyone. I gave 2 to Draper. I liked his game, and it came on the back of some pretty poor form, so that's pretty good. And 1 to McGrath as well. Thought he was excellent. I did have Durham in there for the pity vote, the 1 vote, but no, McGrath probably deserves that a bit more. All right, everyone's favourite part, and I've seen some corking comments. Jesus, there's a lot of comments. I apologise if I don't get to yours. I'm not used to having to filter through quite this many, so appreciate your commenting. I've seen a few people comment on Francis. I think he's still being managed with a bit of a soreness through the VFL.
That's funny because that was that injury, obviously, he got in that practice game where he hurt his, I reckon it was a hip or a knee, I can't remember now. And he went off, and I thought, oh, geez, that looked bad. And then they brought him back on, and he played out the game. I still think that was a strange moment because it looked like it really hurt him.
Yeah. I'm with you in the sense that I want him in the side. I watched some highlights. I was feeling a bit sad. So I watched the highlights of that St Kilda game from last year where we belted them by about 12 goals in about round 3. Francis played defence and was solid as a rock. So get him back in that back 6. Some comments around Zach Reed. From all reports, played his best game in the VFL. And if Laverde goes out and Stewart is still injured, I don't see we have many other options other than to play the kid. I'm not against it.
Nope, 100%. Yeah, he's been building up. I think he's played probably 4 games, I reckon, in the VFL. And apparently, yes, I did read that his last one was his best. I think he had 17 touches and looked pretty good.
Yep. Joe is back.
Kept Cox goalless, so that was exciting.
It's always a win. Joe back. Joe is back. Not that Joe. Joe Carbine. Season is done. It's finally time for Brian to come in and Perkins to get some midfield time. Agrees with you on that front. He's a young stringer in the making. I'd go one better than that. Say he's a young James Hird in the making.
Yeah, you've always talked to him about being a bit of a herd-like.
Bit of a herdy. Yep.
Talking about herds.
Oh, hang on. We'll get to that, please. Joe, again, have you boys watched Sammy Durham's comments after the game? He said that it was great having more mature heads in the team because it gives the youngsters more confidence to play to their strengths. He's playing off halfback with the skipper. If he feels that he needs more leadership despite playing back there with the captain, what does that say about our on-field leadership? Not a good sign.
No, agree.
I didn't see the comments. I was fighting.
I watched a bit of the interview with Sammy, and he talked about how the year before I think he was a chippy and he was working on site somewhere. And then to be in front of 80,000 this week was pretty exciting.
And he didn't let himself down.
No, he was. He's very like. I think he's better than Guelphy, to go back to that argument, because he's about a year into his development at the club.
It's funny, isn't it? We were
half a year last year and a half a year this year. He's only 20 or 21, isn't he? Something like that.
Sure.
And I see like he's got more attributes for an AFL football player personally. He's got a bit of height. He's got the that bit of mongrel, bit of throw himself at it. But he kicks a bit better. He can take a contested mark. He can take a high mark. He throws himself. So for me, he's a better version. Personally.
He's 20. It's funny how it was always Ham v Guelphy. We've pissed off Ham now. Now it's
Ham shouldn't be in the conversation.
Durham v Guelphy. We'll piss off Guelphy.
Durham's a better player, I think.
I agree with you.
That's just my opinion on
these guys are divisive among fans.
Yep.
Andrew Neo suggests moving high into the forward pocket, to which Jordan Pomatul is back again, suggesting Hind to the wing.
That's interesting.
Not sure about the wing. He's quick.
I mean,
he's got good work rate. I don't hate it.
At this moment, to be honest, Sam, I mean, I know we don't get to say these things to the coaches, but I don't mind. What I think would be disappointed if in the rest of the year we don't see any experiments. I think that would be disappointing for us as supporters.
And again, don't preempt me too much there.
Okay, sorry, go.
I have a plan.
Go.
First time for everything. Jimmy McGilvray suggests or says, how about touching on the poor rotations? In the last quarter, we had Merritt, Shield, McGrath and Parrish all on the bench at the same time. Wowzers. That was when we lost a couple of centre clearances in a row after winning them all day to lose the game. Yes, that was noticeable at the ground that crucial moments in the last quarter, Peter Wright was in the ruck and Parrish wasn't there. That was what I picked up.
Yeah.
Didn't realise it was quite that bad.
Well, Parrish was off because of his ankle, obviously, and
poor management.
Merritt then had gone off in his rotation, which made it look worse. And then Draper had also, his rotation too. So it all compounded to be, that's a stuff up. And now that's when Collingwood, like Pendlebury had gone in and he was having an effect at that stage.
Yep, sorry, that sounded like there was more coming there. Apologies. Yes. Kyle. Hi, Kyle. King. I'm not knocking Darcy, but he needs to run more. His meters gained were awful. Clayton Oliver had the same amount of possessions as him and more than double the amount of meters gained. I think we touched on this enough earlier in that his handballs were effective and more often than not were to a bloke who was on the run who was able to get the kick away. They were meaningful, effective disposals. So I don't agree with that one.
Yeah, look, I don't think, to me, Parrish is not that, 700 meters gain guy. He's the in and under. He's getting the ball out to the guys.
If you're releasing your teammates, it doesn't matter.
And maybe it's something he can work on as his career develops, like that sort of side of it. But at the moment, he doesn't need to do what other guys.
A massive amount of meters gained when you're having an impact by freeing your teammates to get the meters gained. Like,
I have no problem with it. Guys like Mitchell, Tom Mitchell would have used to get 40 touches, not about the same meters gained, and he won Brownlow playing that. Playing that style of football because he got it to the guys that could kick it, and he knew that was one of his strengths.
Yeah. Joe again, what did Truck do in response to Collingwood having an extra man behind the ball? I didn't notice any tactical changes personally. Now, this is something I wanted to touch on earlier, but I saw that comment and thought I would just leave it.
Nice one.
Goddard had a bit to say on Twitter about that, and I'm paraphrasing. So again, don't at me if it's wrong. Basically, all throughout the day, Collingwood had the spare behind the ball or in front of the ball in their back line, generally Howe or more. We use that extra number around the contest. Yep. That was our response to that as well. If you're going to have a player there, we'll have it around the contest, which is where a bit of a buzzword yesterday was over-possessing or over-complicating it, where we handball, then run out of options and then don't kick. And then what frustrates me is that when we do kick and kick it straight to a Collingwood player, the same supporters all around me crack the shits because we kicked it straight to a Collingwood player. Like, I think what Joe's saying is right. We probably should have evened that number up. And I think Goddard might have said the same thing, is that we should have evened it up the ground and back the system, backed all that stuff at the contest. But it explains that over-possessing, over-handling thing a little bit more.
And the turning around and kicking it backwards because there were no options for it, and there's Howe standing up there in front of you.
I think what's frustrating and what Joe's point is that nothing changed.
No.
It happened all day.
And this goes to a deeper conversation we had about the coaching staff and the coaching technique that we're seeing at the moment. Is the concern at the moment is the style of football is reminiscent of Richmond in a period when they won flags, but
the style of football we're trying to play, not that we are playing.
We're trying to play, not playing it very well. But it's not the style of football that's winning games at the moment. And the concern is that because we've got a lot of ex-Richmond coaches.
We have two, but they're the most important two.
But they're the two very influential ones, yeah. And that we're playing a style that doesn't look like it can stand up. And maybe we're playing that style because we can't kick the ball very well, so we have to play a handball happy style.
The game's changed. Like Melbourne, fair enough, Melbourne don't play a Richmond style of football.
No, and they look very good playing a non-Richmond style of football.
It's very easy to say this in round 6. The toughest games they're going to play over the next 3 months: Fremantle, Brisbane, and the other good team,
Sydney.
who I forget, thank you, Sydney, are all at the MCG.
Hmm.
Now, there's every chance there'll be an upset, but they could legitimately go 20-2, 21-1 sort of territory.
Hmm.
They don't play Richmond style of football. They play Melbourne style of football.
Hmm.
My issue or my concern is what you said, that we're trying to play a style of football that, one, we don't have the players to pull off, and two, is outdated. I would personally like to see.
We can't even play it at the moment. They're losing Adelaide.
No, they're only 1 minute ahead of us. The Tiggies.
Hmm.
I'd like to see someone else in the box. I don't know in what capacity. No, certainly not as coach. I'm not suggesting anything to do with truck.
No.
A Nathan Buckley, someone external to the club, completely external.
No, don't.
Not. How can you hate on Like, I know he's Collingwood and all that sort of stuff.
I just don't think that that's the answer. Like, an unsuccessful coach is the answer.
He didn't win a flag, right? No, but he took wasn't a great list at the time, within a goal of a premiership.
I don't know if that's true either.
And now they're pretty average.
But he was there for like, how many, 12 years? I think he probably had 2 rebuilds in the time he was there.
I don't think he was there that long. Jesus.
Oh, he would have been there 10 years at least.
Anyway, it doesn't even have to be Buckley. Someone external to the club.
Don't mention Buckley then.
Who's clever. Just another opinion, another view, another person of input that isn't an ex-Essendon player and isn't an ex-Richmond coach.
Okay. I'm okay with that statement, but I don't like the name.
You just don't like Buckley.
No, I respect Buckley, great player, decent coach, but no world beater in any coaching department. Like, he didn't do anything.
All
great.
I'm saying is completely external.
You've
He's
said
got
it.
nothing to do
Stop
with
saying
Essendon.
it again.
Nothing to do with it.
But there are hundreds of blokes out there in the football world that are external.
Yes, I agree.
Essendon.
I agree. The example I chose was Buckley, and I'm sorry I chose Buckley. Jesus.
That's it. We're cancelling the pod.
Podcast's off. We had a disagreement. Daniel Hegarty said, couldn't agree with you more on Guelphy, Nathan.
Yeah, Daniel.
A fan. Joe again, frequent regular contributor here, Joe. Guelphy's such a wonderful player, trying his absolute best week in, week out to wring out every drop of ability he's got. If 3/4 of our team is as committed as Guelphy, we've got a premiership team. I agree with that in parts, but not entirely, in that, again, I go back to that. Ability isn't something that should be coached. Effort isn't something that should be coached. Ability can be.
I agree that they all should be putting in that sort of effort that Guelphy puts in.
Without any questions being asked at all.
That's right. That's not, and that's, I think, the sad standard that we're accepting at the Essendon Football Club at the moment is that we're seeing Guelphy and we're going, wow, look at him.
We're happy with someone trying.
Wow, someone's trying.
It's just what we're conditioned to do.
Trying's great. You should can try every week. You should try and put your body on the line. You should be backing back into packs. Should be getting crunched like. I think there was a moment when Draper drifted back on the wing. Yeah, no. He punched. He got a punch. A fist to it. Went out of bounds. And Heppel came over and gave a big head shake and, big fucking, great effort, mate. That's what
that happened another time with someone else too, which is a terrible thing to say because I can't remember who it was.
Yeah, we should see effort. We shouldn't be surprised by effort.
Joe's always also given his votes, which, as such a regular contributor, I'll read out, obviously. Draper Parish Waterman. We haven't really touched on Waterman.
Well, 4 goals.
Very good from you, Joe. 4 goals.
To be honest, Waterman,
took his chances.
That bit on the wing was horrible, where he
turned around like 50 times. Yep.
Well, he got out and then he turned back around. He turned back around to a player, like, it got caught, like, and yet he had an Essendon player. He couldn't. The problem was he's very left foot dominated. He was on his right side. He had to try and get back inside of the ground to get it onto his left foot, and he got caught out. And I think it's an issue for him. It's a reason why he can't be a midfield forward. He can only be a forward. But 4 goals, he kicks the ball well. He's good in one-on-ones. I'm happy to have him as a forward at the moment because of what he does.
Yeah, absolutely. And if he can kick a couple of goals a game as a forward, he's capable of taking a mark and a contested mark at that.
He can tackle.
Yeah, stick him in the forward line. No drums,
no drums
at all. There was a comment that I saw earlier about, I think it was Joe, which I'm not picking on you. Not that would be picking on you. I can't find it again. He basically said, like, it's time to just chuck Brian in, start these rotations and really try some shit. basically. Which is why I didn't want you to talk about Hurd earlier. Tom Hurd, I want to say, because his brother played in the VFL as well. Tom Hurd kicked 2 goals, 3, had 26 touches, and our AFL forward line kind of sucks. So
we just have Waterman kicking 4.
Apart from Waterman, it's a bit of a thing there that, yeah, I agree. Season's done, right? So what we've got, Truck, you got a bit of a license now to try some shit. And hey, if you throw enough of it, something might stick. And some guys, all they need is opportunity. And Hurd could be that guy. So I'm all for that Hurd coming in.
Yeah, and as I said, look, we're not in charge of what happens for the rest of the year. We don't get to make these decisions. I know, it's stupid. It should be like by proxy or something like that.
That was the whole reason we did the start of the podcast, so we could do stuff.
Pay a membership for what? Then I hope that the coaches take this opportunity because, I don't think we're going to be very good. Take this opportunity to play some players, and we see, if Laverde is injured, I'd love Reid to come in. And even if not, maybe Reid plays one more game in the VFL and then he comes in over either BZT, I'm not sure, or whoever, and plays out the rest of the year. And we see what we've got. If he's fit, if everything, the ankle, I think it was the ankle, or I think it was an ankle or back problem he had. So if all that's fine, if all that's fine, I'd love to see him play. And, a kid like the Hurd, who's been on our list for a few years, hasn't he? Young Hurd.
Yep.
So I wouldn't mind just seeing Tip and Woody. He can just keep plodding away in the VFL until he gets himself mind right. Hurley's another one. Would be great to maybe see where he's at. Like I'd hate for him just to never play football again. I'd love to see him just to get back out in the game and have a nice moment, have a victory, and play with the boys one more time. And he might call his career over because I don't know what sort of injuries he's got or where he's at in his life.
32 and hasn't played for 2 years. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. But I hope that Essendon can find a way for a guy like that, who's the heart and soul of the club, to get himself back, just for a couple of games at the end of the year. But if that's instead of a Reid or something like that, then that might not be great.
Well, I'm against farewell games for the sake of farewell games. I know that was a bit of a controversial subject around Bell Chambers.
Championship.
I would hope Bell Chambers, Hurley, Hooker, all those guys that were wrapping up their career. And at the time, it was Bell Chambers wanting to play against Melbourne. So it was Draper to play against Gawn or himself.
Right.
The value Draper would have got out of that game, I can't remember what even happened now, but the value that Draper would have got out of that game is huge. So I would hope, same thing, if Hurls gets to around 23 and sees, well, Zachy Reid's got a good chance here to play against a bloody good forward, I don't need to play this game. Have him at the ground by all means. Have him do a little lap of honour in a car. We'll all give him a clap and say, thanks, Hurls. You've been great for 13 years. Yeah. Anyway, we'll cross that bridge when...
we'll cross that bridge. But I would like to see a few of these guys and, maybe even see, Frang is another one I'd like to see back in the team.
In the back line,
Yep.
I think the point is, if we're going to roll the dice, if we're going to mess around with anything, it needs to be with younger guys.
Definitely.
And like I said, if you throw some shit, something's going to stick. And it might be Hurd. It might be Hurd that comes in and kicks 2 or 3 goals and you go, holy crap. One, we've got someone who's capable of kicking goals, but 2, it's a Hurd.
And it might be a Brian. Brian might come in and double ruck with Draper, and we might see, hey, this Brian can actually play as a half forward option, maybe not to the level of Jackson, but in that mold where he moves pretty well and we can see something. I'll be disappointed at the end of the year if the 22 that rolls out is the same as what was.
Can't. It'd be riots. I'll just try and get excited about a Hurd. Anyway, a couple of little comments because they're nice. To wrap it up with, I think it's a good way to finish it.
Always nice.
Murray,
nice.
Muzz McGorlick. 2 comments from Muzz.
Yep.
Why don't many people tune in to listen to you guys? Been asking myself the same question.
Well, Murray, because people are fools. Fools, Murray.
Look, Murray, we do okay. We're pretty happy with what we get, but appreciate your comment. And I love your show. Very entertaining. Thank you.
Oh, well, we weren't going for entertaining.
Amazing. We love feedback. We love feedback. We get positive, negative. We love it. Thank you. All right. We've done our votes. We've talked about the future. We've solved none of our problems. Do you have any final comments?
Doggies next week. They're not playing great footy.
They're not crash hot, but they still scare me.
Of course, they're playing the grand final last year. If the effort arrives again from the Collingwood game, if Parrish is okay, if Reid plays, that'll be exciting. They don't have a ruckman. Well, they have a 37-year-old Martin. So
yes, no Tim English. That's big.
No Tim English. So look,
Good
let's
chance to
just
play
hope
two
the effort
ruckmen.
turns up. We could play two, but ruckman and stretch them there. But let's just hope the effort turns up, and whatever happens after that, we'll deal with, because we can't. You're not going to turn around the ability in a week, but as we talked about, the effort should be there. That's the bare minimum we want to see, is the effort again.
Yeah,
we can't have it 1 week and then it's gone. Like if we turn up next week and get, like, it's a bit like the Freo game or the Geelong game.
If we get pumped,
I'll be really frustrated, because you can't just rock up for 1 week after the heat comes on you and go, well, we did a week. Look at us.
Well, we didn't even win. I guess that's the
we
thing.
didn't even win.
It should still be negative and should still be a bit of like, well,
It's
we
still
didn't do
burning.
what we were meant to do.
There
We played better.
Was it Herbertron? Have you seen his video where he shows all these clips of Heppel going, "Oh, really hurt that one. That loss really burnt. That really hurt."
Yeah.
And there's always a different clip after it. That one really. Oh, that one really.
We're hurting.
The boys. That
We're
one
hurting,
really hurting. We're just the players. We were feeling like this. We're really hurting after that one. And I was just, how many times?
It was in the same video. We played the Monty Python clip of always look on the bright side of life. On that tremendous song and bombshell. We'll call it there. We will be back live on Facebook and everywhere else Thursday night for the preview for the Dogs game. Another Sunday game, just making us wait. But yeah, as always, thank you for your input. Thank you for your input, Nathan. I'm glad we finally had a disagreement. Had to happen eventually.
Two, yeah, two, Sam.
Yeah, two, huge.
What was the second one? Oh, about Buckley.
Yeah, Buckley's chance of that happening. All right. As I said, we'll be back Thursday night for the preview. And until then, go Dons as always.
Go Bombers.
And we're clear.